The earth reminds us that nothing living remains the same forever. Tonight, on solstice, we gather at a threshold. If you've come carrying grief, if you're in the midst of becoming, if something within you is asking to die so something truer can live, these are healing poems for all of us. Welcome to House of Lenore, Sing Me Sovereign. My first poem is called Marrow Hymns for the End of Empire. There are women who remember with their marrow, not memory like a filing cabinet, not memory like dates pinned to refrigerators, but memory like river silt under the nail bed, like wolf teeth buried beneath the church floorboards, like a drumbeat trapped in the pelvis of a planet still trying to thunder its way home. I have heard them call it religion, this reaching, this kneeling, this smoke curling upward like frightened daughters trying to escape the body. But what if God was never trapped in a steeple? What if devotion was the black soil itself, worms turning death into orchard, crow carrying sunlight in its beak, the homeless man muttering prophecy through nicotine lungs and cracked lips, while bankers in iron suits mistake accumulation for ascension? I have learned more from grief than from men with microphones, more from blood, more from the way a body buckles before it becomes a doorway, because every creature knows growth is a brutal undressing. The lobster knows with its splitting shell, its holy hell, its ache too large to stay contained. Tell me that isn't scripture. Tell me that isn't every woman who has ever crouched beneath the weight of her own becoming, back against the cold cave wall, trying to not confuse discomfort for doom. The shell tightens, the shell bites, the shell says, stay small enough to survive me. But marrow remembers otherwise. So she crawls beneath the rock, not hiding, gestating, not broken, molting. Soft as a wound, raw as a birth canal, belly exposed to the teeth of the world, and still she grows. Imagine if they medicated every metamorphosis. Imagine if every prophet was sedated at the threshold. Imagine if Inanna took antidepressants before descending, Persephone numbing herself before the underworld. Imagine if Kali swallowed her rage instead of galaxies. Imagine if every wild woman was diagnosed before she became divine. No wonder they fear female pain. It births things. I have watched religion become a wolf in shepherd's clothing, watched men weaponize heaven while speaking of humility through gold-plated mouths. They say submit. Your hips, your hunger, your knowing. Submit the serpent coiled at the base of your spine before she ever remembers she was never evil, only awake. And somewhere beneath all of this, the mother waits. Not passive, not porcelain, not mild. She waits like magma, like mycelium webbing through rot, turning corpse into communion, binding all things, bum and billionaire, beggar and bishop, ant and cedar root, into one breathing body. Because I have lived in this time of man, read Abraham's stories line by line, but my marrow keeps a different record, an older rhythm, a deeper spine. Not history, her story. The blood memory beneath the page, the grandmother tongue beneath the age, the song beneath the sermon, the root beneath the cage. I have seen fathers abandon tenderness for performance and applause, seen women shrink into decorative ghosts bound by another's gods and laws, seen children inherit nervous systems like haunted houses, room by room, learning how to call survival wisdom, learning how to decorate a wound. And still, there are women lighting candles with shaking hands, women singing over steaming herbs, women pressing palms to wombs like listening for ancient hoof beats, women remembering that their bodies are not sins to survive, but temples with teeth. I am coming back feral, back through the marrow mine, back through the Red River, back through the wolf hour, where Lilith laughs barefoot in the garden, apple juice running down her wrists like war paint. I do not want salvation that requires my silence. I do not trust any God who fears the feminine unhinged. the feminine unsupervised, the feminine sovereign enough to say no. No to loveless touch, no to empire dressed as order, no to obedience mistaken for virtue, no to becoming so comfortable I never molt again. Because comfort is not always peace. Sometimes comfort is just a coffin with central air, and I would rather crack open, rather become unbearable to the shell than unbearable to my own soul. So if you find me beneath the rock, bleeding, singing, half woman, half wildfire, do not mistake my shedding for destruction. This is resurrection. This is the old skin splitting at the seam. This is the mother placing both hands on my skull and whispering, grow. This one is a memorial. The birth cycle is complete. Today, I lay my old names down, not because they were wrong, not because they failed me, but because every seed must surrender its shell before it can swell, before it can dwell, root spell, and soul held inside the dark enough to become. And I know something of darkness. I know the language of twisted metal and the terrible silence that follows impact, roads that became rivers between worlds, the language of a highway that carried my mother and father beyond the horizon. I know the grammar of sirens, how a single afternoon can divide a life into a before and an after, severing the known from the ever after. I know the language of crossroads, the ancient dialect of endings that arrive uninvited. I know how death can place its hand upon a shoulder and lead a child into the underworld before she knows the name for grief. Standing in one world and by dusk, standing in another, the old life shattered, scattered, and gone. I was just 14, and death came wearing my mother's face and my father's face. In the face of a road unspooling into forever, death came not as an ending, but as a door. Though it took me years, a wealth of tears, whole rivers of grief carried beneath my ribs and hips, tide that pulled at my seams and fingertips to truly understand what that door was for. Because every death announces a birth, every death announces a birth, every death announces a birth, and still the orphan in me fought the crossing. The small girl gathered bones and stones, trying to build a home from things already gone. Still, I carried ghosts like winter coats, heavy at the throat, heavy at the heart, stitched into every departure and restart, heavy with the impossible hope that if I grieved hard enough, I could reverse the river. So down I descended, where the beginning and ending blended, where every wound I defended waited to be mended, through the shadows gravel, where everything I called myself began to unravel, every certainty loosening stitch by stitch and travel by travel, past grief and lament through the root woven rent, where the dead are not absent, only differently present. Like a Nana unqueening herself at each gate, down through the gate of abandonment, down through the gate of longing, the gate of betrayal, the gate of questions that have no answers, down through the gate of why them, why then, why me, until I arrived where all pilgrims eventually arrive. The underworld, the womb dark, the cave where every soul must meet itself without witness, without applause, without disguise, and there I found them. Self-created demons. Fear, loneliness, the ache of never being chosen, the hunger that mistook itself for love, the wound that spent decades trying to become a home, building hearth from hunger, coaxing roots from stone, raising a matriarchy from the marrow so abandonment would never have to sit alone. I found them all waiting, not as monsters, but as teachers. Because the shadow is not the enemy. The shadow is simply the part of the soul still waiting to be seen, still waiting to be gathered, still waiting to come home. So I sat beside my darkness. I drank from its cup, bitter and sweet enough. I listened. I listened until the grief became wisdom, until the sorrow became marrow, until the wound became a womb, and the womb became a tomb, and the tomb became a bloom, and the bloom became a lotus rising immaculate from the mud it once believed would bury it. Om Mani Padme Hum. The jewel in the lotus, the jewel in the mud, the jewel in the blood, the jewel that survives what it once thought it could not. The jewel that was never lost, only hidden beneath the silt of survival. And suddenly I understood. The bat hanging upside down in the cave is not waiting for death. It is preparing for birth. Just as every child waits in darkness, head down, heart listening before the great turning, just as every woman labors through fire before she gathers a new life to her breast, just as every soul must enter the night of fear before dawn remembers its name. I have walked this before. I have seen this woman before. The one kneeling beside graves in the sacred journey of birth, the one singing to ashes, the one gathering medicine from places others called ruined, gathering gold from the broken, the nectar from the bruising, summoning song from the great undoing, gathering the bones back. I have seen her. She is the mother. She is the orphan, the birth keeper. She is the daughter of the dead. She is the woman learning that lineage is not only what has been given, it is what is forged. Oh, alchemista, brewing medicine from the ache, turning wounds into wildflower, turning endings into seed, discovering abundance in the soil of need. And I see my mother now, not beneath the earth, but within her. Mullen and yarrow pushing through the fence lines, the monarch balancing on milkweed, the river polishing stone, the soft persistence of spring. My father, he is the thunder rolling over distant mountains, the hawk turning circles in the blue, the steady hand of Saturn teaching through loss what permanence never could, and both of them live in me, bone within bone, breath within breath, root within root. Their deaths became soil, and from that soil I grew, not despite the grief, but through it. From seed and stem, from breaking and becoming, Mother Earth knows what to do with your grief. Let her receive you. She takes the fallen leaf, the shattered limb, the husk split open by its own beginning, and feeds them back to the garden. For every wound laid in the soil returns as medicine at the root. Every sorrow buried deep enough becomes the sweetness in the fruit. The garden does not curse decay, does not mourn the compost heap. It ferments death into nourishment, absence into blossom, brokenness into bloom. This is the old magic. The way rot becomes richness, the way sorrow grows medicinal, the way what was laid in the deep dark returns singing and cyclical, because forests are fed by fallen giants, because stars are born inside collapse, because life itself spirals and returns and transforms, because every ending carries an embryo, every grave contains a seed, every descent conceals ascent, every ending plants something unseen, for what goes down into the earth returns humming in rebirth. So today on this day of remembrance, I release what has finished its becoming. I release the identities that carried me but can no longer hold me. I release the woman who believed she had to earn love through suffering. I release the woman who confused survival for living. I release the woman who kept one hand on the future and one hand on the past and could not figure out why she could not dance between them. Beloved, set it down, set it down, set it down. The fear, the guilt, the story, the old skin, the inherited sorrow, the names that no longer fit, lay them in the grave. Cover them with flowers, bless them, thank them, leave them, let the earth receive them, and walk on, walk on, walk on, for there is fertile ground waiting, for there is wild grace waiting, for there is a red rider galloping over the horizon down the good red road with dust on her boots and sunlight in her teeth, calling you toward the light you all along, toward the untamed self, toward the remembered self, toward the true self, the one that was never broken, only buried, the one waiting beneath every grief, every gate, every labor, every loss, the one waiting beneath the shadow with a lantern made of stars, the one who whispers, "Come." The night is over. The lotus is opening. The seed has split. The river is moving. The old skin is loosening its fit. The underworld has given back its treasure. Come. Your life is waiting. I have smoked these thoughts, rolled them between finger and thumb, carried them in my lungs and under my tongue, and found them singing the truth. Scorpio rising, bearing new fruit, and from the ashes, from the marrow, from the dark womb of becoming, I rise, not healed of grief, holy because of it. Praise to the Holy One whose truth survives every death and every rebirth. Om Bolo Shri Sat Bhagavan Ki Jai. The underworld taught me what no teacher could, that every outer lantern eventually burns low, every road eventually bends below, into the cave beneath the ribs where the oldest rivers flow. And there, beneath the wound, beneath the womb, beneath the tomb and bloom, I find what is waiting. The truth within, the only teacher of truth. For what is true has always known itself, and what is holy needs no proof. Thank you. Woo! When I recorded it, the time was 5:55, and I was like, all right, that one goes in. So this is my last one. This poem is an invocation to the Great Mother and all her names. It's a sacred remembering that she has never been separate from us, for when we call her, we call ourselves home. It's called Great Mother Litany, Many-Mouthed Altar. I call you, Mother, Holy Mother, Mi Madre, Blessed Mother, Mater Della Rosa, Star of the Sea, Regina Chali, Queen of Heaven, Mirror of Justice, Mirror of Heaven, Speculum Matrice, Ivory Tower, House of Gold, Gate of Dawn, Mystic Rose, Seat of Wisdom, Ark of Covenant, Oceanic Heart, Black Madonna, Guadalupe, Catalacue, Sophia, Shekinah, Isis Unveiled, Anana of the Underworld Bloom, Kali of the Severed Falsehood, Lilith before the leash, Magdalene of the undone hair, Miriam, Mary, Maud, Mother of Sorrows, Mother of God, the Huge One, the Enormity, Womb of the Worlds, the Milk of Mercy, the Red Root, the First Earth, the Last Harbor, the one before language and after ruin. I call you, because every name is merely a doorway to the same infinite mouth. And I, Lenore, Rhiannon, daughter of Marrow, Bone Psalm, Wolf Prayer, I kneel not beneath you, but within you. For you are not distant, you are not marble, not stained glass, nor unreachable halo. You are the pulse beneath my own ribs, the tide inside my blood, the ache that taught my hands how to cradle, the grief that made my body cathedral. I have searched for you in chapel smoke, in rose oils and ruined hymns, in the wet hush of postpartum moons, only to find your immaculate heart beating inside my own. Mother, when I say restore me, it is my own severed roots I am watering. When I say strengthen me, it is my own spine I am crowning with cedar and flame. When I say heal me, it is my own forgotten goddess I am calling back through blood song. For what is prayer if not remembrance? What is devotion if not the slow unveiling of the divine feminine beneath every wound patriarchy named shame? You are Mary with milk-heavy breasts, Magdalene with anointing hands, Sophia threading galaxies through ovum walls, Kali, tongue red with the death of illusion. You are the mother they softened, the mother they sanitized, the mother they severed from her wild teeth. But I remember, oh, I remember that holiness was never fragile, that compassion is not compliance, that mercy can wear wolf skin, that motherhood is not martyrdom, it is cosmic architecture. It is life ripping itself open to create more life. And I am her. When I rock my daughter, I am her. When I rage against the machine that would devour them, I am her. When I bleed, birth, weep, write, curse, heal, I am her. Holy Mother, mi madre, Mary Magnificent, Magdalene Unbroken, Bone Tower, Bloom Womb. I am not separate from the Great Mother. I am one of her infinite faces. I am one more voice in her thunderous choir, one more womb, remembering it houses stars. So let them say my name and hear beneath it, Mother. And let me say mother and mean myself, for the sacred feminine was never lost. She was mirrored in me, in you, in every woman who gathers her fractured pieces like rosary beads and crowns herself with remembrance. I am the Immaculate Heart still beating, the oceanic vastness still birthing, the huge one still rising, the Blessed Mother with dirt beneath her nails, the house of gold with wildfire in her throat. I am the prayer, the altar, the daughter, the deity, the womb through which the Great Mother speaks again.
Woo!